name is Kennedy Grace Wilson, and I am in your English 112 class. And today I'm going to be talking a little bit about Francisco Goya's The 3rd of May, 1808 painting, and it is pictured right there. So here's kind of the painting at a glance. So the artist was Francisco Goya, and the painting was finished in 1814. And it shows one of the most shocking moments in Spanish history, the killing of Spanish rebels by French soldiers after an uprising in Madrid. And the medium is oil on canvas, and the painting is pretty large, almost 9 feet tall and 11 feet wide, and it is now displayed at a museum in Madrid, and the museum is pictured right there. And Goya painted it to remember the Spanish people who were killed and to show how terrible war really is, how war was not glorious, but war was always full of fear and suffering. And the theme of the painting was the execution of Spanish citizens by French soldiers. So here's a little bit about Francisco Goya. That picture right there is a self-portrait that he painted of himself. He was born in 1746 in Spain. He started out painting pretty formal portraits for the royal family, and he was very successful in doing that. But as he got older, he went through a lot. He became sick, lost his hearing, and lived through war and a lot of political chaos. So those experiences really affected him and changed his art. So therefore, he began to focus on real emotions like fear, pain, and anger instead of perfect beauty. And because of this, he's often called the first modern painter since he was not afraid at all to paint uncomfortable truths. So, to understand the painting, it really helps to know what was happening in Spain at the time, specifically around 1808. So, in 1808, Napoleon's French army invaded Spain. The people of Madrid started a rebellion on May 2nd, fighting back against the French soldiers. The next day, May 3rd, the French decided that they were going to take revenge. So they rounded up groups of Spanish citizens and executed them by firing squad. And that moment right there was the exact moment that Goya decided he was going to paint. So in the painting, you see a group of terrified Spanish men facing soldiers who are ready to shoot. And there's one man in the middle, and we're going to kind of get to him later, who's wearing a white shirt. And in the picture, you kind of see him raise his arms in surrender, but his pose also kind of resembles Christ when he died on the cross, which really shows a symbol of innocence and sacrifice. So inside the painting itself, it is full of emotion and symbolism. The French soldiers are shown from behind, all in a line. They're kind of pictured in the bottom picture right there, and you can't really see their faces. So they kind of look like a machine, not really human or like people. And like I just was talking about, here's the man in the white shirt with his arms raised. It looks like he's surrendering, and he is kind of the focal point of the painting because he shows innocence and sacrifice. And then you can't see them on this slide, but in the full painting, you can see the Spanish victims, and you can see their faces, and they're obviously full of fear, pain, and humanity. And then in the bottom picture, you can kind of see the lantern, and it shines a harsh light on the victims, almost like a spotlight in a play. And it kind of makes us look directly at the horror of the painting because there's no way to avoid it, and the lantern emphasizes that. And the ground is covered in blood, and the bodies of the dead show what happens when war turns cruel and personal. So it really shows the cost of war. So the style and the meaning, Goya mixes romanticism and realism throughout the painting. From romanticism, he takes emotion and drama, and then from realism, he shows real people, not heroes, but ordinary citizens with raw emotions. So the bright white shirt symbolizes innocence and purity from the man there. And then the dark background and the shadows represent death and fear. And the hidden faces of the soldiers show how war removes humanity. So in this, Goya didn't want to make anybody look like a hero. He wanted to show that war hurts everyone and that it is almost never a good thing. And this message was very bold for its time because most war paintings kind of showed victory and glory and heroic acts. And Goya showed pain and raw emotion in this painting. So it really conveyed the message that war is cruel and dehumanizing, and it was the first major anti-war painting of its time. So a little bit about the influence and legacy. The painting became one of the most important paintings ever in history. It inspired many artists after Goya to use art to make a statement. So it really inspired Edouard Manet's in the execution of Emperor Maximilian was directly inspired by it. And then Pablo Picasso's Guernica, painted in 1937, also shows innocent people suffering during war, just like Goya's painting depicted. So today, Goya's painting is seen as one of the first modern political artworks, showing that art can be powerful and emotional, not just decorative or pretty to look at. And it really changed how people thought about war, not as something brave, but as something tragic. So, to wrap it up, the 3rd of May, 1808, by Francisco Goya is much more than a painting. It is a protest against cruelty and a call for human compassion. It captures a real event from over 200 years ago, but its message definitely still matters and prevails today. War destroys ordinary lives. So we see in the painting how Goya turned a national tragedy into a universal message that still remains today. He obviously showed war's impact on ordinary people, and it continues to remind us of humanity and justice and empathy. And overall, the painting was a warning against violence and cruelty. So I hope that y'all enjoyed looking at this painting as much as I did, and I hope it has just as much of an impact on you all as it did on me. Because Goya's work teaches us that art can tell the truth, even when that truth is super painful. So that's why this painting remains one of the most powerful and unforgettable images in art history. Thank y'all so much for your time.